All right, we are live. So there's no one here right now. So if you're watching this, excuse me, after the fact, welcome. I sometimes do these on Sunday. It's the best I can possibly say. I'm very happy to be here. I'm excited to chat with whomever checks in with me, and we'll see how this goes. Happy Sunday. It's 11:47 in Portland, Oregon, or Beaverton, Oregon. Looks like we have 3 people here. Welcome. I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're going to spend some time with me. If you've never left a comment, this is a good chance to do it. Let me know where you're at, how you're feeling, what's on your mind today. Let's have ourselves a talk. And also let me know if my audio is coming through okay. Please and thank you. Um, Looks like we have 5 people here. Talk to me. Tell me where you're from. Mizzy Mole says, Happy Sunday, Noah. I'm in Riverside, California, and feeling good today. That's awesome. Tell me about your day. What makes it so good? Or why are you feeling good today, do you think? I'm feeling good today as well, by the way. Matthew says, Hey man, thanks for being an example. Matt from Waterloo, Canada. Waterloo, Canada. Thank you, Matt. Question for you. What's the weather like where you're at? What's the climate like in Waterloo, Canada? And I appreciate the kind words. Weather's absolutely terrible. Yeah, the weather's not much better here, my friend. It's like in the 30s at night. It's pretty rainy and gloomy, but it does seem to lend itself well to good weather in the summertime, that's for sure. Matt says snowy and cold. Stereotypical for sure. What are the summers like where you're from? Just curious. Welcome to anyone that's just jumping in. This is a live Q&A format and or topic discussion, so please toss out a topic you might want to hear me share my thoughts on and or check in with me. Let me know how you are. Ask questions if you happen to have any questions that I might be able to answer. We'll just sort of take it from there. Like Florida, humid, interesting. Okay, well, I appreciate it, Matthew. Triple O Charlie, hi Noah. What have you been up to these days? What's going on, my friend? These days, for me, my primary focus has been personal development, growth, professional business development with my gym, recovery, sobriety, and then some more recovery and sobriety. Taking life as it comes, learning as much as I can with an easy attitude about that all, getting my finances in order. It's been a really good stretch of time of just learning how to be a regular human adult. It's been going really well. What's been new with you? Brent Waters says, Hey Noah, I want to start going to the gym in March, but get so nervous about how to start and things to eat. I think that's a perfectly normal thing to be nervous about. And there's nothing wrong with being nervous about that, I think. I believe there are probably good reasons for you to be nervous, not necessarily good reasons to be nervous in general, but there's certainly good reasons that you're experiencing nervousness, and that's okay. So first and foremost, that's okay. If you're asking me what I think you should do to overcome it, I think you should go with the barrier of least entry, right? That's always worked for me. What is the smallest possible move that you could make towards that goal that you believe you could actually follow through with? I know as a CrossFit gym owner, what I do is a no sweat intro. So I have people come meet me when there's no one else essentially at the gym or often. And we just have a conversation about your goals and your wants, and you get to kind of express your fears and your stresses and your anxieties. And maybe we can quell some of those worries that are perhaps founded in some false pretenses. So maybe all that is to say, for you, it would be a good idea to check out a CrossFit gym and see if you can find one that can foster some community, give you some support, and help navigate this. I think it's a worthwhile thing to do. Triple O Charlie says, have you been spending time with your new addition to your family, your new niece? You know, I haven't spent too much time with my new niece. I have seen her a few times, but I haven't I haven't spent more than a few moments in those few times with her at this point. I'm sure I'll get a chance to soon, though. Marina says, I've noticed that in the last 4 months, or you're freely growing your beard out. Yes, I'm absolutely growing my beard out right now, and I'm really, really enjoying it. It's one of the main reasons I wanted to grow my beard out was because I was just wanting to see a different face. I have looked at the same face and the same look for a very long time, and I'm not suggesting I wouldn't go back to that look. It was fine. It was clean cut mostly, but I was starting to equate that look with being an active addiction, and I just thought it would be nice to see something different. So I'm a balding man and a thinning hair man on the top of my head. And so I've given myself permission to grow my hair out a little more, kind of have like this little comb over thing I'm doing, and then growing out a longer beard. And I've gone in to get it trimmed and stylized, even have a little bit of beard oil. It just feels good to do something different. I really like having a beard right now. It's awesome. Good notice, good spot. Brandon says, hey Noah, first time catching a stream. Dope. Well, welcome. It's nothing fancy, but I do like to have open conversations. I do my best to be calm and clear and honest about things that are brought up. So I'm glad you're here. I'm always very curious as well to know where people are from and what they're up to. So if you want to share that, that'd be great. Brent Waters says, thanks, Noah. Sir, yes, sir. You're welcome. Okay, it's a Sunday. What are your guys' plans? What's a typical Sunday look like for you guys, if you want to share? What do you like to do on a Sunday? How are you feeling on a Sunday? Um, yeah, let's talk about Sundays. I know for myself, I really, really enjoy Sundays now that I'm sober, a few months sober. I hated Sundays when I was in active addiction. I thought it was the worst because um, I was more hungover than even usual. And all of the normal things some people do on a Sunday, it just seemed like I couldn't do them. So behaviors like going to the grocery store were overly difficult because I felt so poorly about myself and physically I felt so poor. So it's a good Sunday for me now. It's just a completely different experience and I love it. Brandon says, I'm from Nebraska, 27 years old, started TRT back in November. Your videos have been so helpful. Good for you um, for starting TRT if you needed it. I started it at 25, 26 years old, and it's been a lifesaver for me, that's for sure. I've never been to Nebraska either. Tell us about the weather in Nebraska. I'm just super curious right now about weather. Also, how's your mood been? Yorick Penfilomonov says, hey, bro, how much milligram of test do you take now and how often? So I have been on 160 milligrams of testosterone cypionate to treat my hypogonadism, my low T diagnosis from 2012. And I split that into two doses. So typically on a Sunday, I will do 80 milligrams of testosterone cyp. And on Thursday, I will do another 80 milligrams. It works really well for me. It keeps my symptom relief, my side effect profile, my blood work in perfect cohesion. And I feel really good. How about you? How's about you? Brandon says, Noah, you're looking amazing, man. So proud of your sobriety. Yup, sitting in that plaid pantry parking lot, getting ready to go in and grab those Bud Light Platinums. Still remember that video. Yeah, that was my world. I appreciate the kind words. I really feel very good physically. I'm not sure I've ever felt this good physically, which is a gift of sobriety. It's just a gift of recovery and sobriety, which is wonderful. And mentally, emotionally, I feel better than I ever have before. I'm having a calm, kind of lazy Sunday, but um, typically my energy is just through the roof, and my mental clarity has never been so clear. I love sobriety right now, and I'm trying my best to respect it and honor it because I don't want to forget where I came from. The act of behaving in a way that was completely different than what I wanted in active addiction was so traumatizing for me, I think, because it stripped me of all sense of self-sufficiency and discipline and will. Like I just was so powerless. I had to drink. I wasn't going to be able to not drink no matter how much I wanted to, and it seemed like it was never going to end. So sobriety feels good. It works for a person like me. Yorick says, great, your videos really gives me motivation. Excuse me. Me now on 100 milligrams of SIP a week, but I want to try 75 every 5 days. Nice. Yeah, sounds like you're on a really good conservative dose, and that's great. That's really great. Marina says, what were the side effects prior to your TRT? Oh my goodness. The side effects prior to my TRT were effectively every side effect that someone can have that would mirror anxiety and depression. My sleep was horrendous. My energy levels were poor. My outlook and my apathy, the flatness to life, were pervasive. I was despondent. I had no hope. I was flaccid. Um, I was overweight, but still skinny in a lot of respects. I was miserable. I was really, really, really miserable. I was weakened in every way, shape, and form. And I don't believe that I'm someone who solely had low T, but I do believe, as far as like why I was this way, I do think it was a huge, if not the biggest contributing factor to why I just was so sick. But there was untreated alcoholism. I think there was a propensity for anxiety and depression and self-loathing, that kind of stuff, normal stuff with some low-grade mental health issues that were amplified by my breakdown and my low T. Good times. Helps give me perspective about how far I've come and the cost of getting well. WTF 198 says, been away for a while. You back on a TRT protocol? I've always been on a TRT protocol, actually. I've never stopped my TRT protocol since 2012. It's been one of the more consistent aspects of my wellness, and I'm grateful for that. Brandon BJP says, yeah, my levels were around 200. Same. I got my second round of blood work back this Wednesday. Last time it was around 900. Mood is better. However, I'm still pretty tired throughout the day. Yeah, I would encourage you to continue as you feel better, or at least I'll speak for myself. As I started to get my low testosterone adjusted, as it started to improve, which I'm really grateful for, that was sort of just the beginning of now having access to myself enough to start learning and implementing behaviors and strategies and mental growth and personal development that would be better suited for a sense of energy and wellness and purpose and vitality. Tons of going forward and going backwards, as I've documented on my channel. But I think the sooner I accepted that being on testosterone to treat my hypogonadism, while amazing, was not going to be my magic bullet, it wasn't going to be my cure-all, that there was still going to be a lot of action and structure required for someone like me to feel good and to navigate this world in a purposeful and thoughtful way. The sooner I made that connection, the better. because there certainly was a time and place where I was just like, okay, I got my low T addressed. Now I can just what? Like everything's going to be perfect. And that's just not how it worked for me personally. Brandon says it's absolutely a gift, and you're taking full advantage over your life again, sir. You're also allowed those lazy Sundays. I've been working on not hearing myself over missing cardio tracks. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I fully agree with that, and I love that sentiment. I work out very, very rigorously, and I love it. And being physically active is one of the pillars of my life, and one of the gifts of sobriety, and one of the gifts I think of just the way I am. I think so it is so important to take a day like a Sunday for me to not work out, to just go for walks, to rest, to be lazy, to not have to be hyper productive. It's a really important balance, and it helps give me fuel to approach my Monday tomorrow, which is going to be very full and very awesome, with plenty of energy and plenty of interest. So I'm definitely trying, particularly on a Sunday, unless I have to do stuff for my business and what have you, to just do as little as possible that would be considered abject productivity, right? Trying to just explore whatever Noah is interested in, whatever I might want to do. Is there a movie I want to catch? Is there a book I want to keep reading? Is there a project I want to get to? What are the things that maybe I have been not prioritizing during the week because I'm so driven and focused right now at building my business and learning how to be an ambassador for my business and all of that. It's taken up a lot of my time, but it's been really, really cool. So I love that. Brandon also says it's caused me to spiral at times missing a workout for sure. Chad Allen says, love the Amish beard. This is not an Amish beard. Get out of here. You know this isn't an Amish beard. Look at this giant stash. It's funny. Um, did you see Volk get knocked out last night? Dude, yes, I did. I felt so badly for that guy. There were so many people. So for those of you that didn't pay attention to it, which is perfectly fine, the UFC, Ultimate Fighting Championship, had a wonderful pay-per-view last night. One of its ambassadors, Volkanovski, I'm forgetting his first name, had defended his title 5 times at his given weight class. I want to say 145, but he had jumped up to 155 the last 2 fights, I believe, to attempt a double weight class title. He lost by a split decision one time, and the last fight he got knocked out. And people were saying that they worried it would be in his head now that he's tasted defeat, and he's tasted aggressive defeat and um, maybe troubling defeat, and that he was dominated by another person and knocked out. Would this bleed into his current weight class, for which he has defended his title 5 times and then he just got knocked out? I felt really bad for the guy. That must be such a terribly difficult thing to contend with, going from being like this untouchable person, so to speak, to just being so vulnerable and so human. I think we can all perhaps kind of relate to that. I have fallen from grace so many times. It's insane. J Nichols 314. My TRT was 86 and I am at 460 pounds. Wow. Yeah, I do know that carrying excess weight can lend itself very much to a multitude of health issues. I know you know that too. So I certainly don't bring that up to belabor that, but it does seem reasonable that your low T would be so low, which of course just makes it harder to take care of yourself in general. Well, I appreciate you being honest about that. I hope you get help and support and keep pushing towards losing weight. I just, for your health and getting your low T addressed, I just did an interview on the channel. Well, I released an interview on the channel a few days ago, and my interviewee, his name was Doug. He weighed in the 400s, and his life was very much at risk because of it. And he was able to turn his life around, but it took a lot of effort and other therapies, you would say. So there's hope, that's for sure. Worldwide Folklore says, "Hey Noah, I love your content. Thank you. How long on TRT before you started to feel a stable, normal mood and energy levels?" Those two things kind of waned and varied. I'll try to answer it though. Um, when I first started TRT, the first thing I noticed back in 2012 was that my energy levels did get a little bit better sooner than my mental health issues improved. So my appetite went up, my overall energy was improved, my sense of physicality and vitality improved pretty fast. I'd say within 3 to 6 weeks, those things were like pretty touchable and tangible, you might say. The path to my mental health being a little more consistent and better was more of like a year journey, year and a half journey that had a lot of ups and downs. I was getting my testosterone regulated for sure, but I also was coming off of a lot of different psych medications, antidepressants and antipsychotics, things of that nature. And my lifestyle was also not good. My sleep was still poor. My diet was still not helpful for mental clarity, for sleep. So I had a lot of growing up to do in that department. And it's hard to say from a person to person which of those factors are bleeding over into your overall wellness. But for me, it took a year, year and a half to kind of start tying it all together enough to be like, oh, yeah, like this is really holding. But then alcohol has crept in and out of my life and lifestyle stuff too. So long story long, it's just gotten better and better and better, and then worse and worse and better and worse and better and better and better and worse up until now, where I would say I'm at my peak sense of wellness, my peak self. But it's come at a great cost and a lot of learning experiences, a lot of trials and errors. So it's a journey. That's what I'm trying to say. Amaya, the artist and singer, says, "Hey Noah, how have you been?" Hi, Amaya. I like your name a lot. I've been good. I've said it a few times so far. I've just been really, really good. My personal life is in as much order as it's ever been. I am managing my thoughts and my emotions with more calm than I ever have, relying greatly, if not entirely, on uh, help and feedback and tools and rituals and guidance. So it's not like I've come up with anything particularly special, but I have been doing a really good job at following a plan that has been left before me. So things are going really, really well for me right now. And I'm so, so thankful. I'm so, so thankful. Um, how are you? How are things going for you? Turing Ung? Excuse me if I said that wrong. Hi, Noah. I'm 24 years old. Struggle with odd as AUD. Struggle with AUD as well. And your videos have been very helpful with getting sober. Oh, addiction, maybe. I'm glad I could be helpful. I'm glad you reached out. I think it takes bravery to post a comment, even in these live streams, personally. I know that I have like left a comment on someone live streaming who has an internet following of whatever degree. And I think it takes some little bit of bravery, a little bit of courage. So good for you. I'm glad that I've been able to be helpful. You guys are helping me right now just by spending time with me. It's really, really nice. So thank you to all of you. Amaya, the artist and singer, says, "Love your videos, Noah." Thank you, Amaya. Brandon BJP says, "That interview was amazing." Yeah, dude, that was a good interview. Thank you for the feedback. Me Here Now says, "Hi." Hi. Brandon BJP says, "Listen to it while I was working. It was great." Badass, man. I love that. Karen, officially Karen, pronounced Karen. Oh, hi, Noah. That's interesting. Way to put it out there. Let's eliminate any confusion. Me Here Now says, "Just checking in. Hope you're well." I am well. I'm really, really glad you just checked in. I hope you're doing well also. Maya, the artist and singer, says, "You look good." Thank you. It's not by accident. I appreciate it though. Thank you. It's nice to not have to fake trying to look good. That is something I became an expert at when I was getting drunk every single day for the last couple of years prior to getting sober in September. By the grace of God, thank goodness. The disconnection between trying to appear a certain way that I did not internally feel was brutal for me. A very pervasive sense of inauthenticity. It just ruled me. It messed me up. So to just be what I look like, it's like a regular guy who's trying his best to take care of himself and live more honestly. It's like, hell yeah, let's do that. That is better. Chad says, "Have you had COVID yet? If so, how many times? And overall, how do you feel it affected you compared to what you hear about. I don't know if I've ever had COVID. I've been tested a few times back in 2020, 2021, in various scenarios where I had to be tested, like being in treatment, being in rehab. There was a couple times where someone in the house got sick and I needed to, as part of the protocol there, get tested. I've never been confirmed COVID. I would assume, just like all of us, that some variant of it hit my system over the last few years, but I also don't test myself when I don't feel well. I'm more prone to just stay home or rest and recover if I don't feel well, as opposed to get a specific diagnosis. That's just the way I am. It's the way I view things when it comes to my health. Um, this would, of course, change if I ever had some symptoms that were upsetting or frightening, but so long as I didn't and I was armed with as much information as I could, I just didn't worry about it. So I've heard some pretty intense stories about COVID. I'm not going to dive into them right now. I don't think that would be productive for me. But I know it hit some people really hard, particularly immunocompromised people. I've heard some long COVID stories that are just scary. I'm grateful for my health today. How about you, though? Artwork79 says, Noah, you seem so healthy. Love from Denmark. I'm trying. Thank you. I'm glad you're here. What time is it in Denmark? I do feel pretty healthy. I do think I'm in a good space of health, and I hope you are too. It's a nice place to be, to not be constantly swimming upstream, which is something I've done a lot of in my life. Worldwide Folklore says, thank you. You're welcome. Amaya, the artist, says, I've been sad since my grandfather passed away and school has been tough. Oh, I can only imagine. I can only imagine. Loss of life is one of the scariest, most confusing, most unpredictable things we can experience. I think I've lost some people, but I knock on wood for today, haven't lost anyone in my like immediate family. But I did lose a dear friend from a 5-month rehab, and that really broke my heart, and I didn't handle it well. What are you doing to work through it? What are some things that are in your toolkit to help you get through this time? How old are you, by the way? I'm curious. And I'm sorry for your loss. Me here now, all the best. All the best to you as well. Thank you. Dominic says, do you currently take mental health meds? I do not. I do not currently take any psychiatric medications. And I haven't for, geez, 10 years, 11 years. Um, Raymond says, hi, Noah. I really like your videos. Hopefully you have some insight in my problem. Maybe so. Let's see what we can do. This summer, from Raymond, I lost both my parents after taking care of them for 4 months. Jeez. I've been feeling very down, of course, but I've noticed that the very nihilistic state of mind that I have is, you've noticed that the very nihilistic state of mind. I think that's normal. I've never lost both my parents. I do think that pain and suffering lends itself very well to nihilism for me, and I understand how it can manifest in others. I think this idea that can wash over us about what is the point of all of this anyway? Life is suffering, why bother? Apathy, morose, melancholy outlook in the face of perhaps some chemical imbalance that you may be experiencing, or I know I have, when difficulties strike or tragedy strikes or something goes on. Um, I do think there's a way out, and I do think you should pursue that way out, because the alternative, I know for me, to stay in that state of mind, to stay in that who cares about anything, what's the point state of mind, it just adds misery to the abject presence of discomfort, which can be life. And I'm still here, and I want to still be here in the best frame of mind, mentally, emotionally, and physically as I can, not just for myself, but for others. And so when I get lost like that, and I've gotten lost like that so many times, particularly in addiction, just like nothing matters because I'll never be better, I'll never feel okay. The inability to see past my pain, I know that help and support is where I have best found refuge. And so maybe that is something that you might consider, whatever that looks like for you, because what a loss. I can only imagine the pain you're in. Um, I hope that made sense, and I wonder if I was accurate in any of that for you. Maya the artist says, oh, Artwork79 says, take care, friend. Amaya the artist says, and ever since my grandfather passed away, I've been having a hard time. Yeah, looks like there's a few people here talking about the same sort of thing. And how could it not? I think it's also important, Raymond and Amaya, to feel those feelings, right? Not try to run away and feel better too fast, but not to let yourself slip into dangerous patterns, I guess. Hmm. Soren's Wonderland says, do you know anywhere that does telemedicine for TRT that's really cheap? I need TRT, but I'm not paying 300 to 400 every 10 weeks for treatment. Even the cheapest clinics online are about 280, like Peter MD. I don't. I really don't. I think it's just about assessing cost versus benefit. Um, how uncomfortable are you now, and what is that worth to maybe feel completely different and better? How much might feeling better lend itself to more financial viability anyway? I think these are things everyone kind of has to consider with health and wellness because, like you said, to your point, things can be expensive. They really can, but the cost of being sick is also very expensive. I have no set answers for you other than to say I don't have any specific recommendations. Um, but I wish you well and I wish you courage and I wish you good bookkeeping to figure out what would be best for you and how to proceed forward and get what you need while still honoring your finances and your current situation. Hmm. Raymond says, inching me toward my old addiction again. Yeah, dude, that is also a consequence of not dealing with negative emotion in a healthy way or having the tools or the support or who knows what factors. But yeah, I know in my story, when not armed properly with the right information about myself, and when I am not keeping first things first for me, which is that as far as what immediately takes me into a terrible spiral, I am an alcoholic in recovery. And with that in mind, if I don't put that personally at the top of my hierarchy of importance, everything else eventually completely topples and goes backwards, and it's bad. So I get it. I have to put all my consistent effort into maintaining my recovery under the guise, this is how I view it, that I am an alcoholic who needs daily recovery work to keep that disease at bay, to keep me healthy, to keep me from thinking that that's a solution for me, which it isn't. It just isn't a solution. It hasn't worked for me in a very long time. But I totally get like I feel like shit, everything's bad, you're hopeless, maybe you're depressed, maybe your energy's low, maybe you're angry and resentful and you want to feel better. I know that space and I have run to my old friend alcohol for that relief. But alcohol is a fucked up thing in that for me, it relieves the problems it's creating. That's what it became for me. And then at the end, it didn't relieve anything. It stopped being a relief. It just created a cycle that I couldn't break from. And it led to so much self destructiveness. So just hang in there, man. Get help and challenge those thoughts that are telling you something will be better if you and or drink or do drugs. Like it's gonna make it better. I doubt it. I really, really doubt it. And if you're barely struggling like I've struggled to hold on right now, how much worse do you want it to be? Or how much more trouble do I often think this to myself? I don't mean to talk to you in that way, but how much more pain do I think I can handle? Something I've asked myself because I'm not great at handling pain. I really don't think I am. But what's bad can get worse. I've learned that. Like if anytime I thought, oh man, I'm in a bad position, but I kept doing the same thing that was aiding the bad position, it can get worse. And I don't like worse. I'm a comfort creature. I want to be comfortable. Um, Amaya says, I'm 19. Some of my coping strategies are working on my artwork, beautiful. Sometimes crying, beautiful. Or sometimes listening to church music. I love all of that. That's amazing. Good for you, especially at such a young age. Those are great coping mechanisms. Amazing. Good job. Dominic says, do you have advice in finding the cause of the darkness? Like when the cloud rolls in, it isn't always clear why. Yeah, I think my advice, as far as my own experience, is to gently explore those topics, but not be too over enveloped in the exact what caused what, the chicken or the egg type of thing. I think if I can gently explore it and be curious about it, and then aim to take action that is productive and that is proven to be helpful for whatever I'm going through, I think that is a good place to live. I know that I have in the past become far too obsessed with needing the exact reason for the exact thing, and it leads to more morbid reflection, less usefulness to other people, certainly less productivity, even in the sense of being productive for my own mental health, not necessarily in getting something done to achieve a goal. And it's just a vicious, vicious cycle for me. So I think talking about it is also really important. I think for me, being mindful that there are sad things and there are unexplainable, potentially, aspects of life that don't need my understanding so much as I believe they will pass. And I do also believe that I personally am in a better space to handle life, the ebbs and flows, the ups and downs, when I'm in a growth mindset, when I'm sober, when I'm pursuing wholeness and contentness and willingness to be different. As long as I'm sort of in an action of being curious and then not falling into old behaviors that are pleasure seeking to keep me from something because I can't handle it, as long as I can stay there and get the support I need, things work out okay. And my intentness on having to come up with understandings of concepts that are just so big for my little brain, so big, often in the form of like existential stuff, then things just go okay. Um, Onkar says, very good question, Dominic. Indeed. Brandon BJP says, I'll tell you, when my mom passed, I didn't deal with it correctly. I actually had a heart attack. Jesus. It's not confirmed that it came from that, but they said it could be a factor. So take care of yourselves. Yeah, stress, right? Man, that's wild. Kevin Klein says, maybe you heard that question quite often, so excuse me, but what is your experience with cannabis? If you have tried it in the past. Yeah, I usually get a weed question every live stream or so. Um, no need for the excuse me, I'd say. My experience with cannabis was that it was something I was curious about when I was a kid. I really enjoyed after I enjoyed escaping my reality as a kid. I enjoyed feeling differently than the way I felt. I think it was fairly harmless in most instances, but practically speaking, for me with weed, the longer I used it, and it was pretty infrequent. I did get high very young, though. The first time I got high was at 12. And I'd say between ages 12 and 18, let's say 19, I smoked weed, I don't know, 30 times, 40 times, a fairly mild number compared to a lot of people that I grew up with and still know. But I got paranoid and I got anxious. And the second that started, the moment I realized that I was having an anxious, paranoid, anxiety driven experience, I was like, nope, nope, not doing that. And so in high school, because it started in high school, my threshold for being high was just so poor. My friends would just smoke weed and get ripped, bong rips and volcanoes and smoking bowls and bubblers or whatever. They seemed to hold it so well, and they would have these meaningful conversations, or they appeared to be, and they were having fun. And then if I smoked even more than like one or two hits, I just I'd get lost in my chair. I'd get quiet, whereas I'm normally very talkative and boisterous. And so my friends started calling me one hit wonder. If they could just convince me to at least do one hit, they'd be so happy because Noah was so cautious of being out of control and then the ensuing dread and anxiety that would follow. So yeah, I haven't smoked weed in a very long time. I want to say the last time I smoked weed was probably age 22 or 23. And again, it was like I spent most of the time trying not to freak out. So I didn't see the value anymore. Now, for whatever it's worth, because I always like to think these things out in my own head, negative consequence with weed, stopped smoking weed. A simple cause and effect. Negative consequence, excuse me, with booze, and I have had so many, couldn't stop drinking for my life. And that's sort of like the marquee thing I'm learning about addiction. Something comes up, a consequence happens that you do not want to be a part of, you ditch it. I've had that experience with a lot of things. I've shown tremendous self control. Alcohol, no self control, no matter the consequence. That's been my experience with that inversely. Maya says, or my affirmations. I don't. And my YouTube channel. Ah, gotcha, for coping strategies. I love it. I'll check out your YouTube channel, by the way. RG says, what did your progression in your drinking usually look like? What led from 2 days to three, three to four, and then towards a daily drinker? Addiction is so complex and can be so hard to control. Yeah, I never could control it. Um, I think what led to my progression? Time. I just think I fit the timeline of the progressive nature of alcoholism, of the disease of addiction, tolerance, right? Life stress, poor adapting skills to being a grown up, an inability or an unwillingness or insert whatever to deal with past issues that were hampering me and holding me back, that were becoming increasingly more difficult to handle and process in adulthood. Access, finances. I think all of these things lent themselves really well to progressing into addiction. And, my progression in the grand scheme of things, from what I've heard from a lot of people, was pretty slow and tough to really put a finger on for me compared to some, and maybe faster than others. But I've been to rehab 3 times, and I'm grateful for all those experiences, mind you. But I have met some really aggressive alcoholics in the sense that um, some of the people I've met there, just their drinking got to such insane volume, I guess, and frequency very fast compared to me. Then again, I suppose I met people that were slow, they were just older. Yeah, I think it's some combination of what I just said, because I did not think I would ever become a daily drinker. I sort of hung my hat on that fact, despite the fact that it was like at best every other day drinker for a number of years, getting really hammered when I did drink 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 drinks. And I always try to stop based on the hangover potential. But I was surprised this last time out when I became a daily drinker. I just was. I was like, oh my God, it's finally happened. I'm getting drunk every single night. Shit. And then even more so, it's like, oh my God, now I can't stop. And I really want to. Shit. Um, I've had that whole back and forth every day for a long time. And once it's got me, it's got me. That's why it's so important to me on a day-to-day basis to stay sober, because I am completely powerless over alcohol. In my life, as you will hear me repeat ad nauseum, was completely unmanageable. It sucked. It was the worst. It was the worst. I hated it. Mm. All right, no more coffee for this guy. I just realized what time it is. Um, Lynn ASMR. I got mad because an old lady called my boyfriend handsome. I grew up with a negative mindset and feel like everyone is trying to hurt or destroy me. What would you call this? Narcissistic abuse? Bipolar disorder? So I'm not a licensed clinician, not to imply that you thought I was, but I can't treat or diagnose, and I don't think I would even venture to try as far as like what I think it is. But what I would say is that I believe this to be a common response, not an unusual response. And yeah, and I think reality testing has helped me with such reactions that seemed maybe not anchored in truth. And um, reality testing, like catch it, check it, change it, triple C, catch it that you're activated, check it, is what I'm thinking real? Can I prove it? And then change it. Hey, this is just a thought. There's a lot of tools around that, but um, I learned something in rehab that I look forward to becoming more familiar with, because it was really interesting when I learned it. But they talked about cognitive distortions. This is something you could consider going over with a therapist with whom you trust, and or finding one that you can cultivate trust. But if you Google cognitive distortions, it's really interesting what you'll find. And if you can look at it like I try or have tried with an open mind, it's like, huh, like it starts to help you make sense of your response to things and to not judge your response to things quite so harshly, like, I shouldn't be acting this way. No, there's probably a good reason you are, and where can we go from there? That's where my head goes. Raymond says, thank you for your answer, Noah. I really appreciate that. I have another way more lighthearted question that I hope will ring familiar to you or the chat. It's kind of silly, maybe. Oh, Raymond, where is it? When on a balcony, I'm afraid that I'll get an unsuppressible urge to step over the edge, so I'll stay away from balconies. I get that more than you could possibly imagine. When I was depressed, um, when I was really depressed and just perceived myself to be completely hopeless and out of control and not doing well and not anchored in a good space, I was afraid for a long time to walk down the street where there was busy traffic because I was worried that I would involuntarily throw myself in front of traffic. I was so down in the dumps and it scared me to no end. It was a terrible place to be, and I'm sorry you've experienced that. Um, Look, I know that I'm personally not well equipped to be in suffering for too long. It's especially heartbreaking when it's at my own hands. And I get it, but I'm glad I didn't act on any of those impulses. I'm glad I've learned to not judge those impulses uh, too harshly, just to talk about them and learn from them. But I do get it. Brutal. Kevin says, thank you or thanks for the detailed response. Indeed, weed causes paranoia for some people. I think it causes some kind of hypervigilance, which I find useful for myself in regards to exercising or introspection. Yeah, I have met some people that smoke, depending on the type of weed, I suppose, and they get so motivated and they want to learn or they want to be physically active, and it's this really great thing for them. I would venture to say it's a slippery slope for anyone to get high or drunk too much too often, regardless of the perceived benefits, just because the reality, right? Living and dealing with reality, I think, can become unnecessarily dampened if we're too ingrained in our substance of choice. However, I speak for myself, I suppose, with that, not for others, and I don't judge a soul. It's so important to me not to. Amaya says, Noah, how's your dad been? He seems to be in a really good place. He's working on a book. He is enjoying traveling. He's growing and finding himself. He's back at my gym working out, which makes me happy. Um, he seems like he's in a good place, so I'm happy for him. Amaya says, miss you guys filming together. We actually are back to filming together. Some of you may or may not know this, but I do have another channel. It's a far larger channel. It's a pediatric one that I started at the same time as this channel back in 2012. It's called Paul Thomas MD, Dr. Paul. It's my dad. And yeah, we're going to be releasing an episode today. It's a good one. Robbie Reese says, you look so healthy, Noah. Thank you, Robbie. I appreciate it. I am feeling pretty healthy today in as many aspects of health that I can possibly measure. It's going well right now, and I'm forever grateful for that. Hope you're well too. Raymond says, RG says, appreciate the detailed answer. Makes a lot of sense and has been in my experience as well. Good, badass. Lynn ASMR says, thank you so much, Noah, because my mindset is really hurting myself and my boyfriend, and I don't even mean to. It's just what I was taught, yet I don't want it to be a crutch or excuse for my behavior. What a beautiful statement, and what ownership you just took over your situation. I do know that things go better for me when I take as much responsibility for my adulthood while still being very respectful of my past and mindful of what comes more difficult for me and what I might work on. That way, I don't get caught in this needless cycle of shame, but I also don't get caught in this victimhood mentality where, like, well, this happened to me and therefore I am screwed and therefore everything is hopeless nihilism. And I just want to stay away from it because I'm alive and I want to have the best experience of being alive that I can for the time that I am, and I'm just trying to take that very serious and be more careful about it all. So good for you. Matthew says, thank you for the motivation. I've not ever admitted I was powerless over alcohol, and my AA attendance has been spotty at best. Yeah, I get it. It's a daily admission for me. I'm prone to forget, but I have found tremendous relief in that admission. It simplifies my life and it helps me understand myself better. My experience has overwhelmingly validated that I am powerless over alcohol. I have returned to drinking at the most tragic times, and I have drank at the worst of moments, and I have suffered and created suffering when I didn't want to, despite my very best efforts, so many times. And I fit the timeline of progressive alcoholism so perfectly that it's scary. And and yeah, it's just been easier to just wave the white flag. It's so far, it's just been easier. These last 5 months have had their difficulties for sure, but they have been incredibly fulfilling. And particularly the last month or two, it's like the harder I work on it, the deeper I dig, the more I humble myself, and pursue growth and get curious about life again and get away from that vicious cycle of just being drunk and hungover and all of the shitty aspects of my life and my personality that come out under that guise. The better I feel, and the better food tastes, and the better relationships are going, and the more hope I have, and the healthier I'm experiencing this life to be. It's like, Jesus, it's a lot of consistent effort, but boy, is it worth it. The alternative is just the worst for me. Um, Matthew says, I look to motivation to curb this thing that is really hurting me. Yeah, for sure. Um, I do know, I might say, that motivation for me can be extraordinarily fleeting. But toothbrush habits, as you might hear them to be called, those I can be consistent with. Whatever I deem or I've come to the conclusion is best for me at whatever pace I get to that realization, and then implement whatever that is into some sort of practice, some sort of action outside of some sort of like abstract idea or moralizing or values. Like, I believe in this and I think this would be good. The more I can get away from the rush of thinking about something good for me, and the more I can implement and institute things that are good for me, like cold exposure every morning, like my gym habits, like my recovery habits that I've been fortunate enough to develop these last few months, the more that I just get used to, in an automated sense, doing all of these things that I know are good but take a lot of practice and time, the better everything else goes. And the less I rely on motivation, which is huge because I have a finite amount of energy and I just want the good things, the things I actually believe in, to come as natural and as easy and as simply as possible. It's been a full story. I'm sticking to it. Raymond says, to be clear, it doesn't cause me any anguish or anything. I just stay away from the edge just to be safe. Fair enough. I do not have a fear of heights. If it's safe to make the jump, like diving board, no problem. Gotcha. Yeah, that's good clarification. Okay, we're coming up on the 1 hour marker. That was kind of like the number I had in my head. I really appreciate you guys spending time with me and passing some Sunday time together. I'll probably go ahead and call it here, I think, and wish you guys well. Wish you a wonderful rest of your day. I'm going to go eat some food. I'm excited for that. Go for a walk and just do my best to enjoy my Sunday. Um, I'll I'll answer a couple more questions before I go, but this is probably just about it. Let's see. Dan says, I haven't needed your vids in years now. That's the greatest compliment I can give. Recovered from panic disorder for years now. Your vids were there in the hardest of times. I just dropped by to say thanks. Dude, Dan, that is the greatest thing you possibly could have popped in to share. I'm so thankful that my videos offered you some solace when they did. I'm so grateful that you're doing better. That gives me hope, and I hope it gives other people some good energy as well. And I appreciate you. Thank you. Singing, dancing, muscle man says, what up? No, just got here and just stopped in for a sec. Dude, when is the whole brace? You're never going to let that go. And shame on me for not just doing it for you. I should do a shorts. I should just do a shorts of it. There's no way I'm doing a full YouTube video. Bring Sally up. Film, bring Sally up for shorts. Your ability to recall that is incredible. I hope you're having a good day. I'm glad you popped in. Matthew says, thank you. You're an inspiration. Oh, I appreciate that. That's nice for you to say. I think I've been an inspiration of what not to do just as often as what I've been an inspiration to what maybe to consider. The jury's out. Um, Oleg says, thank you for your content. You're welcome. Thank you. Raymond says, yes, that's exactly my experience. It's good to know that I'm not the only one. If anyone knows a name for this phenomenon, please let me know. I think that's just called existential dread and being a human being. Caught you at the last minute before you sign off. Yeah, pretty much so. Jim Ash says, good job, Dan. Hell yeah. Matthew says, honestly wanted your advice on relationships. Alcohol has damaged mine. My advice on relationships is to work on yourself. My advice on relationships is to become the healthiest, best possible version of yourself that you can, and to take extreme ownership over the things you have control over. And if you don't know what those are, to take ownership over that lack of knowledge and go find someone who can help direct you to your best self. I don't believe much more can be done in most situations until personal shortcomings and issues are sorted out. And then oftentimes it's a communication problem. I know that's been my experience. And alcohol has damaged my relationship to alcohol and how it manifests and how I treat other people to no end. I know damaged relationships from addiction. I am a poster child for it. And I'm glad my wife is still with me. See Dancing Muscle Yahoo! Hold it. You're funny. Jamash says renewal energy. Yeah. Brandon, have a good day and week. No, you too, man. Matthew says that is very excellent, I think, and taking ownership is what is needed. Absolutely, guys. Okay, well, thank you guys so much. We'll see you guys in the next video. Hopefully a live stream every Sunday. And I just know that you are appreciated and have your best possible day. If you're struggling, I'm sorry that you are. I mean that. That's not a good place to be. I hope you have the courage to get whatever support you think you might want, no matter what you think will happen if you reach out for help again. And if you're doing well, let's freaking go. That's awesome. You're worth it. I'm worth it. Being well should be celebrated. It's a wonderful thing. And then maybe you can help someone. And maybe I can help someone who's in need with my wellness. That's all I got. Bye, guys. Thank you very much for your time. Oh, peace.